This is the American Film Institute's Lifetime Achievement Award, America's highest honor for a filmmaker.
Good evening. My name is Sir Alfred Hitchcock. Last year, the American Film Institute gave me their Lifetime Achievement Award. Tonight, it will be presented to an actor. I have been quoted as saying that actors are cattle. What I really said was actors should be treated like cattle. However, an exception should be made for the actor being honored tonight. I won't keep you in suspense. His name is James Stewart.
From Beverly Hills, California, the American Film Institute salute to James Stewart.
Got a special delivery here.
Oh, that sounds interesting.
Dowd.
Oh, Dowd's my name.
Elwood P.
Well, my name is Charles Lindbergh, and I'm talking to you from St. Louis, Missouri.
I want you all to meet my new deputy, Thomas Jefferson Destry.
Howdy, folks.
I'm sorry to bother you. I'm Shepard Henderson. I live just above.
I know.
What'd you say your name was?
McNeil.
What division?
I'm McNeil of the Chicago Times.
Aren't you Captain Glenn Miller?
Yes, sir.
I want to congratulate you on that band of yours.
Thank you, sir.
Now, look here, Marshal. Whatever your name is...
Name's McCabe. Guthrie McCabe.
Say, mister, what's your name?
Jefferson Smith.
Oh, yes, please. Come right in, Mr. Smith. Right this way. Say, what are you?
Well, I'm a professor.
Oh.
Well, not quite. Associate professor. I don't know. I suppose I might as well unveil. I'm a detective. Excuse me, I'm sorry. I'm just a humble country lawyer trying to do the best I can against this brilliant prosecutor from the big city of Lansing. Oh, look, Joe. Now, look. I want a big one.
What'd you stop it for?
I want you to take a good look at that face.
Who is it?
George Bailey.
Ah, it's a good face. I like it.
Ladies and gentlemen, the recipient of the 8th Annual American Film Institute Award for Life Achievement, Mr. James Stewart.
これは1980年2月28日、ジェームズ・スチュアートがアメリカ映画協会より功労賞を受賞した時の模様を録画したものです。ジェームズ・スチュアートと親交のあった映画人が多数出席しておりますが、その後他界したスターの顔も見えます。アルフレッド・ヒッチコック、グレース・ケリー、ウィリアム・ホールデン、ナタリー・ウッドなど、そしてジェームズ・スチュアートとは50年来の親友であり、82年8月12日77歳の生涯を閉じたヘンリー・フォンダがこの授賞式のホストを務めております。ジェームズ・スチュアートは1908年5月20日ペンシルベニア州インディアで生まれました。大学時代演劇グループに参加し27歳の時映画デビュー。1940年フィラデルフィア物語でアカデミー主演男優賞を受賞。1949年に夫人のグロリア・マクリーンと結婚しました。
Ladies and gentlemen, the chairman of the American Film Institute, Charlton Heston.
Thank you. Good evening and welcome.
It's the job of the American Film Institute to preserve and advance the filmmaking arts in the United States. One of many ways we do this is by honoring distinguished filmmakers. Tonight marks the 8th time the trustees have voted recognition for an individual's lifetime achievement. Each year, we gather to honor sustained artistic achievement, to recognize those who, in the words of our charter, have, in a fundamental way, advanced the filmmaking arts, and whose work has stood the test of time. I think we can all agree the performances of James Stewart have met that test. In 1935, when Jimmy first arrived in Hollywood, there was little reason to imagine that there would be an evening such as this in his honor. The casting director at MGM, Billy Grady, had seen Jimmy on the stage in New York. He brought him out here for a small role in a picture called The Murder Man, starring Spencer Tracy and Virginia Bruce. And Grady almost lost his job when the producer laid eyes on the 6'3", 130-pound Stewart. You see, the character Jimmy'd been hired to play in his screen debut was a reporter named Shorty.
How's your book going?
It isn't.
What do you...
Now, as you will soon see, there were meteor roles waiting for Jimmy Stewart. One of them was in 1952, when I had the privilege of working with him in Cecil B. DeMille's Academy Award-winning Greatest Show on Earth. It was my second film and Jimmy's 42nd. As you can imagine, I was very proud and a little awed. But there's one actor who was there at the beginning. In fact, he was there waiting at the train station when Jimmy first arrived in Hollywood. They've been friends and colleagues for almost 50 years. Ladies and gentlemen, our host for tonight, and himself, the 1978 recipient of the Life Achievement Award, Mr. Henry Fonda.
Seems like only yesterday. Jim, I'm glad it's you on the hot seat tonight. Gloria, hold his hand, tell him to relax and enjoy it. I want to give you a little background on James Maitland Stewart. Jim was born in the small town of Indiana, Pennsylvania, in the lowlands of the Allegheny Mountains. His grandfather founded the Stewart Hardware Company. His father had inherited it, and it was naturally expected that Jim would take over when he got out of college. But Jim graduated from Princeton with a Bachelor of Science in Architecture. During Jim's undergraduate years at Princeton, he became involved with the Triangle Club. That was an organization that produced what would loosely be called musical comedies every year. And originally, mostly because he could more or less play the accordion. And Josh Logan, who had written a couple of the shows, thought Jim ought to come down and join the University Players at a summer stock company on Cape Cod. Jim liked the idea and talked to his dad about it, and his dad thought it was a lot of nonsense. He had an uncle who told him no Stewart ever had anything to do with the theater, except one. He was in the circus for a while, and then he got arrested. And that summer, they tried out a new play called Carrie Nation, and eventually came into Broadway, and it was short-lived, but it did introduce some new faces to Broadway, including Mildred Natwick and Josh Logan, Myron McCormick, and a tall, skinny James Stewart. Now, without documenting the next 2 years, the point I want to lay on you is that Stewart never went out and looked for a job. I'd been wearing out my shoe leather in Times Square for 5 years, going from office to office. And the parts just kept happening to Jim. And they kept getting bigger and better. I remember I saw him in a play called Divided by Three. He was playing Judith Anderson's son. Judith is a formidable actress. Well, I want you to know Stewart was electrifying. And I went back to see him in the dressing room, and I sat there just looking at him and shaking my head and wondering when and where and how in the hell did he get to be so good? And I've been in awe ever since. Jim, I treasure every moment. I treasure every moment of the years we've known each other. You once said that the great thing about acting in the movies was that you could give people little pieces of time they'd never forget. Well, let's look at some of those little pieces of time that Jim has given us over the years.
You'll hate to hear that I adore you, dear, but grant me just the same, I'm not entirely to blame, for you'd be so easy to love, so easy to idolize, all others above.
Well, thanks, Bill.
I was just wondering, since I was so nice and showed you around the camp and everything, I thought maybe you might,
Is that it?
Oh, no. No, I was just going to ask you, I have the day off tomorrow, and I thought maybe you might show me the sights of the city.
Bill, you put it so nice, it's kind of hard to refuse. What time?
Well, how about 8:30?
Oh, that's a little late for me.
Well, you see, we don't have breakfast here until 7:30.
Oh. All right, Bill, 8:30.
Oh, Cyril, I'm so glad you decided to come.
I recognized him instantly, Mrs. Johnson.
I'm doing an article for the New York Times on Madam Chambers' great work in the theater.
So sweet of you.
One of her actors is down with the flu. It's a small part, so I'm sure you can get up in it by tonight. It's a Southern lieutenant. Mr. Hemingway is Southern himself. Oh. Virginia, isn't it, Cyril?
Alabama. Well, that's perfect. If you would care to just read for me for a few minutes.
Madam, I'd be delighted to read for you all.
Perfect. Perfect. Poor Mr. Isaacs could never quite master the Southern accent required by a gentleman from Mississippi.
Alabama. So I'll start by telling you that I have a very peculiar hobby.
So have I. Mine's carving napkin rings. What's yours?
Mine's collecting deputy sheriff's guns. Whenever I meet a new deputy, I always ask him for his gun. And I ask him real nice.
I'm sorry, Mr. Kent. I'm afraid this here's one gun your collection is going to be minus.
You mean I'm going to have to take it?
If you can. Oh, hold on. Get excited here. I was just trying to tell you that I ain't got any guns. See, if I would have had a gun there, why, one of us might have got hurt and might have been me. I wouldn't like that, would I?
Excuse me.
Are you still in love with her? Or perhaps you consider that a very personal question?
Not at all.
Liz thinks you are. Liz thinks you are. But of course, women like to romanticize about things.
Yes, they do, don't they?
Yes, they do, don't they? I don't know. I can't understand how you can have been married to her and still know so little about her.
Can't you?
No, I can't you. I have the hiccups.
They've been around again, asking questions. I'm so worried for you.
Oh, now, don't worry. They'll never find me behind this nose.
Be very careful, dear.
Now, how about a nice smile that I can remember until next year?
God be with you, my boy.
It's all right, Mother.
That's my steak, Balance.
And you heard him, dude. Pick it up.
Oh, Pilgrim, hold it.
I'll get it, Liberty.
I said you, Liberty. You pick it up.
What's the matter? Everybody in this country killed crazy? Here! There! There! Now! It's picked up! That point to the north there. The shape's right. Those islands off to the right there. That fits. That lines up right. It is. It's Dingle Bay. It's Ireland!
Jim's lovely co-star, Grace Kelly, in the Alfred Hitchcock film Rear Window, caused such a sensation that moviegoers and Jimmy couldn't wait to see them in another film together. But it was not to be, because the young actress was soon to star in a real-life fairy tale romance that surpassed even anything that Hollywood could imagine. She lived happily ever after, we're glad to say. And she's come all the way back here to Hollywood to be with Jim on his night. Her Serene Highness, Princess Grace of Monaco.
映画女優からモナコ公国の王妃となったグレース・ケリー。そのグレース王妃も1982年9月14日不幸にも自動車事故に遭い53年のあまりにも短い生涯を閉じました。その悲しいニュースは世界中のファンにショックを与えました。
Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. It's nice to be back. And I'm so pleased that I could come to share this evening with you, Jimmy. When I first came to Hollywood, there was already a guarantee of special quality in the phrase, a Jimmy Stewart picture. And I came to realize that working with him in Rear Window, and I was able to appreciate it firsthand. And it begins with Jimmy's dedication to his craft. In Rear Window, we had a little love scene that Hitchcock made us repeat over and over again to get it perfect. And you know, Jimmy never complained. He didn't mind at all. In Jimmy's personal favorite of all of his pictures, after Rear Window, of course, Frank Capra's It's a Wonderful Life. Jimmy plays a small-town family man down on his luck and who doesn't realize the good that he has done for the people who love him. And at one point, he is very low, And Mr. Capra sends him a guardian angel with a message of hope. And the message is, one man's life touches so many others. And Jimmy, that is true for you. Your life and your work have touched so many. Yours is really a wonderful life.
The director calls them Capricorn. The critics call them film classics. The films that Frank Capra made with Jim Stewart shaped Jim's career. By way of introducing Frank Capra, scenes from You Can't Take It With You, It's a Wonderful Life, and Mr. Smith Goes to Washington.
You know, every time I think how lucky I am, I feel like screaming.
Tony, please promise you'll invite them.
Oh, I feel a scream coming on right now.
You know we'll have to face it sooner
Oh,
or
yeah,
later.
it's starting right down to my toes. Sort of a tingling sensation.
Now, look, we can
And now
invite
it's
them both
coming up
legs.
around my knees. My legs are traveling faster and
Tony,
faster and faster.
You're not really
And
going
it's
to
in my
scream.
stomach right now. I'm afraid it's got me, Alice.
Not with your
Now
mother
it's going
here,
up
Tony.
and up and up and up. It's all over my body now. Here.
No.
It's right in my throat now. What I can do is fighting to get out. I can't hold it any longer. Here it goes. What happened? What happened? What happened? Well, a mouse went right past there.
A mouse in this place?
A mouse? What do you mean, a mouse? It was a rat that long with hair on it.
A rat with hair on it?
Yeah, about 6 of them. Weren't there 6 or 7 of them?
Where?
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 Where? Where? Right under that table.
Now, here's the point. Mary, you're in on this too. Now listen. Have you got any money?
Money? Yeah. Well, a little.
Well, now listen. I want you to put every cent you've got into our stock. Do you hear? And George, I may have a job for you. That is, unless you're still married to that broken-down building and loan. Well, this is the biggest thing since radio, and I'm letting you in on the ground floor. Oh, Mary. Mary.
Well, I'm here.
Will you tell that guy I'm giving him the chance of a lifetime? Do you hear? The chance of a lifetime.
He says it's the chance of a lifetime.
Now, you listen to me. I don't want any plastics. I don't want any ground floors. And I don't want to get married ever to anyone. You understand that? I want to do what I want to do. And you're...
George.
And that's why it seemed like a pretty good idea to me to get boys out of crowded cities and stuffy basements for a couple of months out of the year and build their bodies and minds for man-sized job, because those boys are going to be behind these desks some of these days. It seemed like a pretty good idea. Getting boys from all over the country, boys of all nationalities and ways of living, getting them together. Let them find out what makes different people tick the way they do. Because I wouldn't give you 2 cents for all your fancy rules if behind them they didn't have a little bit of plain, ordinary, everyday kindness. And a little looking out for the other fella, too. That's pretty important, all that. It's just the blood and bone and sinew of this democracy that some great men handed down to the human race, that's all. But of course, if you've got to build a dam where that boys' camp ought to be, to get some graft to pay off some political army or something, well, that's a different thing. Oh, no. If you think I'm going back there and tell those boys in my state and say, look, now, fellas, forget about it. Forget all this stuff I've been telling you about this land you live in is a lot of hooey. This isn't your country. It belongs to a lot of James Taylors. Oh, no, not me. And anybody here that thinks I'm going to do that, they got another thing coming.
Ladies and gentlemen, Frank Capra.
Thank you very much. A film faces the audience with a single, thin front line, the actors. If that front line collapses, the show is over. A bad performance can kill the finest story. Yes, there is bad acting and good acting. Fine performances and sometimes great performances. But there is a higher level than great performances in acting. A level where there is no acting at all. The actor disappears and there's only a real live person on the screen. A person audiences care about immediately. There are only a few actors, very few, capable of achieving this highest level of the actor's art. And that tall string bean sitting right over there, he's one of them. Thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, Jack Lemmon.
A number of years ago, which I wish to forget, I got fortunate enough to work with Jimmy Stewart. It was a very it was an unpleasant experience. It really was. Mainly because I didn't get to do any of the big scenes with him. Kim Novak got to do all of the big scenes. It was Bell Book and Time. People don't think of him as the great screen lover, you know, in retrospect, like Gable or Cary Grant or you name it. But it's a funny thing for a shy, skinny guy who's about wah, 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 and doing all of this. Somehow he ended up with a who's who of Hollywood, of the greatest of leading ladies that ever were. Jean Harlow, Margaret Sullivan, Lana Turner, Jean Arthur, Katharine Hepburn, Claudette Colbert. I mean, it goes on and on. Carole Lombard, the greatest maybe of all. And he wasn't macho. But macho really in Spanish only means man. So he was macho. It's just overtly he wasn't macho as we use the term. He was always a man. You're a great actor, sir. And he certainly proved it in all of his films.
We're studying the lowest form of vegetable life, the protococcus. Now, I will take a drop of water and put it on the slide here. This water is from the gutter of a roof. It's been standing for some time.
I didn't know you were this wonderful.
Now you'll use these to get the focus, and you'll notice a sort of a green coloring. And that is a multitude of very small green bodies. See? So I want you to examine that, examine it very carefully, and if you run into difficulties, well, just ask me or one of the instructors.
Well, hurry back, will you, dear?
All right, darling. Here. Now, let's see. All right. That's a very lovely picture.
Tony,
Now, wait a minute. Now, don't say anything. Now, look, Phantom. Last night, I informed that irate lady that was just in your office a minute ago that I was going to marry you.
I don't remember you telling it to me.
No, you didn't ask me.
That's right, I didn't.
No, she did. I talked about you so much that she finally said, well, now, the next thing I expect to hear from you is that you're going to marry the girl. And I said, yeah, that's it exactly.
What'd she say?
Nothing.
Just fainted dead away?
No. She took us standing up. You know, if you
scratch under the surface here, you'll find a proposal lying around.
Has your mind taken hold again, dear Professor?
Well, good thing, don't you agree?
No, Professor.
All right, lay off that professor stuff now. Do you hear me?
Yes, Professor.
It's really all I am to you, is it?
Of course, Professor.
Are you sure?
Why, yes. Yes, of course. Golly. Golly, Moses.
Tracy.
Mr. Carter, Mr. Carter.
Let me tell you something,
No, don't all of
Tracy.
a sudden I've got the shakes.
It can't be anything like love, can it?
No, no, it mustn't be. It can't.
Would it be inconvenient?
Terribly. Anyway, I know it isn't. Oh, Mike, we're out of our minds.
Right into our hearts.
Oh, that music.
Yeah, it does, doesn't it? Tracy, you're so
As if my insteps were melting away. What is it? Have I got feet of clay or something?
Tracy.
It's not part of the pool. It's just over the lawn and in the birch grove. It'll be lovely now.
Tracy, you're tremendous.
Put me in your pocket, Mike.
One part of the Jimmy Stewart story has nothing to do with the movies. It's the story of a young man who served his country for 4 years in the Army Air Forces during World War II, rising from private to colonel. Today, Jimmy is a retired brigadier general in the Air Force Reserve. We have film of his enlistment, and you're going to hear from a man who served under Jim as a staff sergeant in the 453rd Bombardment Group.
Former Staff Sergeant Walter Mappau.
At ease. I'd like to extend my congratulations You look like a young Jimmy Stewart there. Or is it Laurence Olivier? I'd like to extend my congratulations to Colonel Stewart. I know he's a brigadier general now, but I used to call him Colonel when we were both in the 453rd Bomb Group in England during World War II. The country was not yet at war in March 1941 when citizen James Stewart, age 32, enlisted. He had to stuff himself with spaghetti for weeks so he'd weigh enough to pass the physical. He made it by exactly 1 ounce. He exchanged his lucrative MGM contract for the $21 a month pay of a regular soldier. Soon thereafter, he wrote his agent and close friend, Leland Hayward, enclosed, fine $2.10. Which is the commission owed you by me for my salary for the month just past. He won his officer's commission not by pulling strings in Washington, nor on the strength of his civilian prominence, but by the unspectacular method of meeting the official requirements. He became commander of the 2nd Combat Bomb Wing and led as many as 1,000 heavy bombers at a time into combat over Germany. He received the Air Medal, the Croix de Guerre, and the Distinguished Flying Cross. When he came home, he was no longer Jimmy Stewart, the movie star. He was Colonel Stewart, Air Force Commander. Colonel Stewart, for the men of the 453rd Bomb Squadron, I salute you.
Ladies and gentlemen, Dustin Hoffman.
The truth of the matter is, Mr. Stewart, I wanted to be here tonight to see a lot of your work and to hear people talk about you that I had never met and hear stories that I've never heard, and I wanted my parents to be here, and they are here tonight. They grew up with you. My father worked on the lot when you were making Mr. Capra's film. Mr. Smith goes to Washington, and he's your age. My mother is my age. That's one of my problems. I saw It's a Wonderful Life 2 days ago for the first time. I think I may be the only one here to have seen it for the first time that recently. It's a great, great, great film and a great piece of work, and you could have shown it tonight and it would have been a tribute in itself. I congratulate you for a really first-rate piece of work, sir. Apparently, I'm the only one up here representing my generation of actors. I don't think you're ever going to be duplicated, though mimicked, I'm sure, as you have in the past. There is an individuality in your talent, and there is some kind of meshing which you were able to do with a country which I was born into and raised, wherein your own acting talent and, if you will, your own persona transcended. And so when I saw you on the screen in that performance, you made me laugh, you made me cry, and you made me wish for a country which perhaps we haven't seen for a while. I was told that this film, It's a Wonderful Life, was not a success. That you came back from the Second World War and made this film, and were told by the critics or people in this town that your career was at a low ebb and that you were down and out. You had made the comment that you weren't sure whether you were an unemployed actor or an unemployed flyer. We are going to see now some of work of yours that followed the Second World War, and I'm told that it was a tougher side of you, and maybe it was because of the war you had witnessed, coupled with the fact that you had done, I think, one of the great parts of your life, and it had not been appreciated at the time. Whatever it was, there was this other side of you which we are going to witness. Let me just say in closing that you made my parents very happy. You made me very happy. I'm making sure that you're going to make my children very happy. And if this world has any kind of Capra luck, you're going to make my children's children very happy. Thanks.
I've been riding to meet up with a man named Dutch Henry. Whiskey, will you? Hoping to run into him here in Tascosa. Wouldn't happen to know him.
I might. How long do you know him?
Long enough to tell you how he got that little scar above his right eye. I gave it to him when he was 10.
Now you want to give him another?
Where is he?
Supposing I don't tell you. Then what?
Where is he? Where is he? Bobby! Where is he?
Take the witness.
Miss Lemon, did you go to the Mannion's trailer?
Yes, sir.
Did you see Mrs. Mannion at the trailer?
Yes, sir.
What was her appearance?
She was a mess.
Objection. No evidence has been introduced to make Mrs. Mannion's appearance relevant to this case.
Ah, well, no evidence has been introduced to make Barney Quill's appearance relevant, but you didn't object to the question then. Is that because you know that Barney Quill bathed and changed and cooled off after he raped and beat hell out of this poor woman?
Your Honor, everybody in this court is being tried except Frederick Mannion. I must protect...
Now listen, this is a cross-examination of a murder case. It's not a high school debate. What are you and Dancer trying to do, railroad this soldier into the clink?
Somebody's been stealing water out of this tank.
Stealing the water?
Now, I don't even want to know who it is, but I'm telling you this. If it happens again and I see who's doing it, I'll kill him.
It was me. In any case, I didn't steal it. I took it.
You took it. The people here could die for lack of water, and you took it.
Yes. Yes, because whilst you people have been sleeping or pursuing your own ridiculous little interests, I have been working.
If you think being some kind of a boy wonder entitles you to other people's water, you've got another think. Why did you have to steal it? Why didn't you just come and ask me for it?
Ladies and gentlemen, Gene Kelly.
I'm not here tonight to do a dance. They've asked me to come because at one time I was lucky enough to be the director of a Jimmy Stewart picture. And for an old song and dance man, that's a greater honor than you might know. For his directors included men like Ford, Lubitsch, Wilder, Stevens, and, well, I think you get the idea. There are few people I could say I've missed working with, but I certainly did not want to go through life without doing a film with Hank Fonda and Jimmy Stewart. And that opportunity came to me with a picture of the Cheyenne Social Club. I'll admit I'm certainly not the first guy whose name would spring to mind for a Western, but it is second nature to Jim. Do you really know that he made 18 Westerns, and he's from Princeton? It's unbelievable. He must be a pretty darn good cowboy. Now, we've seen some wonderful Stewart scenes tonight, but we all agree that the evening wouldn't be complete without one where those two great friends and great actors played a scene together. Here they are, Hank and Jim.
Harley! You tell them? I told them. Well, what'd they say? They're not talking to me. Too blunt, John. Bluntness is a flaw in a man's character. If a man wants to get somewhere, he's got to be what they call diplomatic. I mean, if a man wants to reach one of them shady way stations along the tortuous spine-busting road of life, he can't be blunt with folks. If
Yeah, you're nickel-plated, but you can be rough around folks in an Indian haircut. I'm not saying you're bought for the hollow horn, but sometimes you leave folks with a taste of gone bad pooch, you know what I mean? I mean, some of the words I heard you put on folks, I'm surprised you ain't been brought up to a stiff rope and a short drop.
Oh, is there anything else?
Well, yeah, John, there is one other thing. I was wondering if you could see your way clear to loaning me some money. You don't have to if you don't want to, but I thought since you got so much, you might see your way clear to...
First you deliver the sermon, and then you pass the collection
John,
plate.
I didn't go for you to take it like that.
How much money do you want, Harley?
$15 or $20 ought to do me.
And what do you need it for?
Things?
What kind of things?
Just things, you know, like a drink of whiskey if I wanted, or a new shirt or something.
You already have 2 shirts. You don't wear but one of them at a time unless it's winter.
There you go, thinking like a Republican again.
That's the only time in 20 years I ever mentioned politics to Jim. Jim's worked with many fine actors, writers, and directors over the years, and a host of them are here tonight. Any mother'd be proud to have a son like Jimmy Stewart. And this delightful lady has played his mother in no fewer than 5 times. In Of Human Hearts, Vivacious Lady, Mr. Smith Goes to Washington, It's a Wonderful Life, and on TV in the Jimmy Stewart Show. One of Hollywood's most beloved actresses, Miss Beulah Bondi.
I'm thinking tonight of Jimmy's real parents, who lived to see his fine achievement and who make this evening possible by having given us Jimmy. There is a fine producer who has directed and produced many Hollywood classics and who cast Jim as the G-Man in the FBI story, Mervyn LeRoy.
The Jimmy and the Shooters and The Big Sleep was the most gifted actor, Richard Boone.
Five of Jimmy's pictures: Shenandoah, Flight of the Phoenix, Bandolero, Fool's Parade, and Airport 1977, all have one thing in common: Academy Award-winning actor George Kennedy.
5 times over. An actress who helped Jimmy win his Academy Award for the Philadelphia Story as a reporter was his photographer sidekick, Miss Ruth Hussey.
Well, this actor gives everyone on the screen a hard time, and he won't even make an exception for Jimmy. From Flight of the Phoenix, Ernest Borgnine.
And for that wonderful writer who wrote the Stratton story for you, Doug Morrow.
To myself and for the many other writers who have looked good over the years because of you, thank you, Jim.
And now that splendid actor who appeared with Jimmy in Cheyenne Autumn and How the West Was Won, Carl Malden.
I would like to introduce a man who directed both Jimmy and me in How the West Was Won. He also directed Jimmy in North Side 777, Henry Hathaway.
That's right. And I say, no, that's wrong because God has already blessed you. And now I'd like to introduce one of Jimmy's oldest friends from the cast of A Miracle Can Happen, Fred McMurray.
Well, Jimmy, all I can say is that the miracle that happened is you. And now the man who rode with Jim in Two Rode Together, Richard Widmark.
Hey, Jim, I think it's time to saddle up again. Let's make another one.
You've heard from Jimmy's friends. In just a little while, you'll hear his side of the story. For the last 12 years, I've watched the American Film Institute grow from a dream in one man's mind to a respected national institution. That dreamer was our first president and now serves as the chairman of the board. I introduce him to you with great admiration for what he has created. George Stevens, Jr.
James Stewart has his very own actor's creed. I never consider the audience as customers, he says. I consider them partners. Well, Mr. Stewart, I am here with this as a representative of millions and millions of your grateful partners. Now, I know you have your critics. There are those who say that Jimmy Stewart will never be a great star until his voice stops changing. Since 1935, he has sustained a career, making us believe he was a professor, a soldier, a reporter, a lawyer, a band leader, a sheriff, an aviator, a senator, a lover, a tippler, a family man, always an American, vulnerable but brave, idealistic but stubborn, awkward yet graceful. He made us believe the stories his characters lived. He sits here tonight, and who could separate the man from the characters he has created? They now live within us as they live and will live forever on film. He has shared with us in 80 movies the changes that life has imposed on that gangly young man who got out of that rumble seat in 1935. So let us present this award with no more talk, but with scenes from Stewart Pictures that remind us that there is no better looking glass than an old friend.
How did you happen to call him Harvey?
Well, Harvey's his name.
How do you know that?
There was a rather interesting coincidence on that, Doctor. One night several years ago, I was walking early in the evening down along Fairfax Street. It was between 18th and 19th. You know the block?
Yes, yes.
I just put Ed Hickey into a taxi. Ed had been mixing his rye with his gin, and
I just felt that he needed conveying. Well, anyway, I was walking down along the street, and I heard this voice saying, "Good evening, Mr. Dowd." Well, I turned around, and here was this big 6-foot rabbit leaning up against a lamppost. I thought nothing of that, because when you've lived in a town as long as I've lived in this one, you get used to the fact that everybody knows your name. And naturally, I went over to chat with him. And he said to me, he said, "Ed Hickey was a little spiffed this evening, or could I be mistaken?" Well, of course, he was not mistaken. I think the world and all of Ed, but he was spiffed. Well, we talked like that for a while. And then I said to him, I said, "You have the advantage on me. You know my name, and I don't know yours." And right back at me, he said, "What name do you like?" Well, I didn't even have to think twice about that. Harvey's always been my favorite name. So I said to him, I said, "Harvey." And this is the interesting thing about the whole thing. He said, "What a coincidence. My name happens to be Harvey."
I guess this is just another lost cause, Mr. Payne. All you people don't know about lost causes. Mr. Payne does. He said once they were the only causes worth fighting for. And he fought for them once. For the only reason any man ever fights for them. Because of just one plain, simple rule. Love thy neighbor. And in this world today full of hatred, a man who knows that one rule has a great trust. You know that rule, Mr. Payne. And I loved you for it just as my father did. And you know that you fight for the lost causes harder than for any others. Yes, you even die for them. Like a man we both knew, Mr. Payne. You think I'm licked? You all think I'm licked. Well, I'm not licked. And I'm going to stay right here and fight for this lost cause. Even if this room gets filled with lies like these. And the Taylors and all their armies come marching into this place. Somebody will listen to me.
James Stewart. Thank you, George, and thank you all for sharing such a wonderful evening, which is about to go downhill as I fumble around for the right words to express my appreciation for this award, which I'll cherish for the rest of my life. I know it's late, and I promised myself to talk fast so not to keep you up any later. It's necessary. The problem is, I don't know how to talk fast.
I'd like to point out some people over there at that sort of half circle table over there. Princess Grace, you've honored me by your presence tonight, and I'm most grateful. Thank you. Over at the end, there's my daughter Judy, our daughter Judy. Next to her is her husband, Stephen Merrill. Stephen? And then over on the other side there is our son, Michael, and Michael, and his wife, Barbara. Kelly, Judy's twin sister, and her husband, Sandy Harcourt, they couldn't make it tonight because they're very busy in Cambridge over in England. And Mike and Barbara's two young sons, they're sound asleep right now at home, and they're just having a fine time. And there's, don't want to forget him, the dinner chairman, Mr. Dennis Stanfill. Thank you very much, sir. Let's give him a big hand. Mrs. Stanfill. Mrs. Stanfill. And there's Hank Fonda's Shirley. Shirley, that's it. And Frank and Lou Capra. And then there's in the center there's my Gloria, bless her heart. Frank Westmore. Now, he's the last of the famous Westmore brothers who made an art out of the makeup business. Frank and I worked together for 20 years. Frank's still going strong, still carrying on the Westmore tradition. Thank you, Frank. And I want to mention Ted Mapes. Ted Mapes is a member of the Hollywood Stuntmen Hall of Fame. Ted was my double, my stand-in, my advisor, my critic, my friend. Thank you, Ted. You know, it's wonderful to look around this room and see so many people that I know and love and respect. And pretty nice to know that you all support the American Film Institute, too, as I do. I think that's pretty nice. I just can't tell you how honored I am to be up here, standing right where such really gifted and talented people have stood before me. Like Henry Fonda. I know we've been friends for almost half a century. I value that friendship very highly. My admiration and respect for Hank is just unbounded. And if ever there was an actor, present company included, Henry Fonda is the very definition of the word. I guess you could say that up until tonight, the AFI has honored brilliance and daring and abundance of talent and attainment of the highest ideals of the motion picture community. And all of that brings us down to where we are now. When the American Film Institute, in all of its wisdom, adds a new name and a new category to the AFI Life Achievement Award. Jimmy Stewart, a remarkably fortunate fella. And just let me tell you, let me try to tell you what this evening means to Jimmy Stewart. I don't know, it's kind of like tying a happy ribbon around a wonderful lifetime that's blessed me by letting me get paid for the work I love to do. And I've been lucky to work with people I love and respect. I'm just grateful for every wonderful day in this wonderful business. And I thank you.
How do you top an act like that? How do you top a career like that? I was talking to Jim the other day, not long ago, and I was asking him what he had in mind, what was coming up next. He said, well, I thought I might like to, I was going to, I like to take Harvey to China. And he said, of course, I don't speak Chinese. But then he said, oh, of course, I don't speak English very good. Jim, you do pretty good in any language. Thank you, everybody, on the behalf of the American Film Institute. Good night. Thank you.
温かで素朴な人柄、誰からも好感を持たれ人望厚いジェームズ・スチュアート。彼は常に理想に燃えるアメリカの良心を代表してきました。数々の名作の中で演じた善意と正義に満ちたヒーロー像。スクリーン上での役柄にはいつもジェームズ・スチュアートその人がいました。この日集まった多くのスターのスピーチ、無二の親友ヘンリー・ホンダの一言一言がスチュアートの全てを物語っているようです。